I want to we'll start with the first one, which surrounds the body of the reptile. And I don't want to go into too much detail because we've talked about UV and light a lot, but there's a few things that I find really interesting, and I think it's always important to touch on this topic. But Liam, who is the creator of the Reptiles and Research YouTube channel, which is a fairly new YouTube channel, recently did a video where he was responding to a comment that Kevin McCurley left him, basically accusing him of, all animals. Liam's point is all animals should require, especially all reptiles, require UV, and Kevin disagreed. So Liam went kind of through in a really sort of brilliant way, broke it down of going through some studies and why Kevin was wrong. And you commented on that video, and I found it interesting. Partly you said you actually found yourself emotional watching the video. So I wanted to take that apart just a little bit with you, because I don't think people understand how much of a trailblazer you are in the UV movement. And maybe you could start with just briefly those early days when you were finding UV. What led you down that path, and what sort of criticism were you facing when you first started bringing UV into the hobby?
Well, the criticism that Liam experienced from a guy actually that I respect, I must say, but both of them I respect, and both of them have their own sides of the fence, and I know which side of the fence I'm on. But that criticism that he faced there was absolutely nothing like the criticism that I faced when I first published a magazine article saying, well, hey, leopard geckos aren't really nocturnal, so we should probably be, not only are they not nocturnal, but the biggest problem in captivity is MBD. So there's a problem here. I think we should probably start using UV lights. I said in the last episode that we recorded together, I received threats, credible threats against myself and my family for publishing that from the core trade. And, I've had periods of time in my career and in my hobby where you just think, do you know what, I can't do this anymore. I've banged this drum for so long and we're not getting anywhere. And I still get sent these pictures of animals with broken limbs coming out of the eggs. And I still see this, and I still get crying people phone me up saying they've bought their animal and now it's being euthanized. We still get, well, not so much now, but I still was then when you have these sort of mini meltdowns. But actually to watch that video and having watched the video prior to that, and seeing the reaction and the way that Liam had pulled everything apart, and he had used good scientific research and really good forward-thinking theory to present an argument. It was one of the very first times where I actually sat in front of the computer and thought, they get it. So I actually just had a few moments and thought, you know what, there's people out there that are starting to really think the way that a number of us have been thinking for a long period of time now. It's not just me. I just have a mouthpiece, and so that's why I found it emotional. I suddenly thought, goodness, we've actually achieved something. And when you started to look at the comments and some of the Facebook comments that went on around that, 98% of it was positive, and everybody saying, look, no, the guy's wrong. We must be doing better by our animals. We've got to be doing better by our animals. And the proof is always in the pudding. If you install a system of care that is effective and ethical and measured, you will see a positive difference in your animal. And I have never spoken to a keeper ever, not ever, out of the hundreds of thousands of lamps that we sell, that has ever come back to me and said, I put a UV lamp on there and my animal doesn't look as good as it used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ever. It's amazing. And it is really, because this was a long journey for you. And for now to be part of the reptile industry sort of meme, that this a lot of us do accept UV as important, and so it was really cool to see that as a comment. It's almost like you finally overcome that, you and everybody else that's been kind of touting that for so long. But it wasn't an easy path, and it wasn't a short path either, which is incredible.
We're talking over 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously you can see where the emotion comes from, because it's that's a hard job to do.
Yeah. So I was delighted. And even more so, we don't all have to agree, and we shouldn't always all agree, and nobody has all the right answers, or would be a dictatorship. As long as we're having conversation, and that conversation is polite and constructive, then we will forge a pathway ahead.
Yeah,
for sure.
No, I totally agree. That was very cool. So, and the last point I wanted to make on this one is the increase of visible light increasing the welfare of the animal. And I last year I bought the LED Jungle Dawn LED bar,